I can feel the ascension taking place. I can feel that we're expanding and that our conversation is elevating and that we've been speaking a long time, you and I. And it feels like we're talking about the same thing, but in a new way. It's higher now and it's more nuanced now. And I think that we're at the brink of just a mass awakening to this new way of thinking about leadership and about women and about business and about how we function in the world. And it's all interrelated and it's very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like a lot that has been said and written in the past that was extremely valid, or at least perceived as extremely valid. It's not working anymore.
Yeah,
It's not true anymore. And as at the least you can say it's not impactful, or it doesn't has the impact that you would expect from leadership. When we look at the results in organizations, in governments, in countries, in communities, like you expressed that so beautiful, people are really suffering. People are really suffering, especially women and children. And it feels like we are in this status quo with this kind of leadership where we're stuck. We're
yeah,
stuck. And we do, we are, a lot of us feel so depleted and so overwhelmed and not able to find the truth anymore that they just keep in that status quo. They don't
yeah,
change because they don't know and they don't have the energy, or they don't have the resources or the power to say, no, stop this.
yeah,
Let's look somewhere else.
for
Yeah.
sure. I heard a prophecy once. I can't remember where it comes from, but I heard the mankind, humanity likened to a bird that was trying to advance, but it was only flying with one wing, this masculine wing, and it was
Hmm.
flapping its masculine wing, and the other feminine wing was not working. So it was flapping away, but it was going around in circles and getting more and more tired and more weary because it's just flapping on this masculine wing and not advancing, just wearing itself out. And what was required was the outstretching of the unfolding of the feminine to balance out this burden, allow the bird of humanity to advance, to move forward. And I really, that prophet, that visual really caught my attention because I see it. I see that even men are weary, like that it's not working on so many levels, and we're still clutching to the old definitions of what success looks like and trying to convince ourselves that this is good because money, we've got money, the profits, and we're building bigger and higher. So we're trying to convince ourselves that it's working, but behind the mask, people are really suffering. People are crying. People are dying as a result of the way that we are operating. And so I say that it's really time. It like the whole, you have to be at the bottom of the ocean in a cave somewhere to not feel the reverberance of the shaking of planet Earth going, we need new leadership. We need to
Yeah,
find a new way to be. And I think that's very
absolutely.
exciting.
It is. And also, I love that metaphor, Dion. I can see this bird in front of me. I can hear it. And the thing is, it's not a little bird. It's not like a small little bird that we can take and say, come here and let us see how we can, like you say, unfold that other wing. This bird has grown big and big. It's a very big bird, making a lot of noise and making a lot of dust
Yeah,
and creating a lot of stress, not only in itself, but also in everything and everyone and everybody that is surrounding it. And we're looking at it and we're like, it's so difficult, it's so hard to take it and to love it and to make sure that we can heal it and that we can give it the full potential, developing both wings. It's such a difficult thing. And yet I feel that women are the creatures that are able to do that because we love, we care, we have the patience, we can build the communities to do that. But
oh,
it's such a
Helena.
beautiful metaphor.
I mean, that is such a beautiful expansion of the metaphor. This
Mm.
bird is unruly. This bird is not in its right mind. This bird is tired and cranky. This bird is afraid, so scared,
Yeah.
so afraid, so separate from its source, so disconnected, so scattered. And it's looking for, it needs the kind of leadership that is rooted in love and compassion and understanding and resilience and strength and true power, true connected to source power. This is the kind of leadership that can manage to do this work with this bird that needs something so desperately.
Absolutely. And what a beautiful theme this is for May. The month of May is
Yeah,
the month where birds create their nests, and it's a very important month for birds. So it's a
wow.
beautiful theme for this month, for
Yeah,
this
yeah,
session, and for what we bring
yeah,
to our audience of people that can relate with this and that can connect to this. And I love the metaphors and the visuals because it makes us, we can see it, we can hear it, we can feel it. It's so easy to connect to that and
yeah,
to understand, and it's also so easy to anchor it. So when we see birds this month,
yeah,
think of the ones that are only have one wing and
yeah,
that cannot fly in harmony, that cannot move in harmony, that cannot
yeah,
basically contribute, that cannot sustainably consciously contribute to a better world and to
yeah.
better leadership. Mm.
So what's coming up as you speak now is that the women that we're talking to, the women that we often get together and daydream about impacting, these women are part of that bird right now. They are a part of that system that's flying with one wing. And we are at varying stages of trying to get with that program, fly like that, be part of that system. We have really contorted ourselves and lost ourselves and separated from ourselves and conditioned ourselves to fit into this way of being, not realizing that's one, it's not how we roll as women, and two, that the true nature of our being is the answer to this system not working. When I was writing
Yes.
my book, I remember the day, like it was just such a powerful day when I was wrestling with the uprising of these ideas within me. And I was grappling with them. I didn't have language, didn't know how to describe what I was sensing. And then I remember the metaphor came, the king, the king, the sovereign system that is operating and that whose subjects, whose people are so unhappy, who are crying and dying and suffering. And this king not being in his right mind and not being able to connect with his people and the people not doing well and the king not doing well. And then I realized that, oh, the king needs a queen. The king needs a queen. The king needs women who will be in the chamber with the king, that will be a soft place for the king to lay his head, for the king to be able to articulate the way that he sees things and then be challenged with love to see things in a different way. Like the king, this unruly, unwielding system. And I know we're mixing metaphors like crazy here today,
That's
but
crazy.
this king needs a queen. And so that's really like just years of grappling with these ideas that I realized that it's the feminine sovereignty that is really going to be the game changer in this season when we're looking for a new kind of powerful expression, an influential new breed that can help usher in a new way of being in business leadership and in world leadership and in
Yeah.
home and life and community leadership. We need to see things and do things in a different way. And that's going to take the rise of this sovereign.
Absolutely. And even if we are mixing metaphors, it's very similar in terms that we are looking for integration, for harmony. It's not like there's something as such with the king that is wrong, or there's something as such with that wing of the bird that is wrong.
Yeah.
It's just that it is not complete, right?
Yes.
It is about completing, it is about integrating, it is about adding. And a lot of us women also have developed that king.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have developed that one wing because it was a way for us to access and to belong so many markets, so many worlds. And because though this wing and this king, those elements, those features have been so validated.
Yeah.
And it is about the validation of the other wing and the validation of the queen. And I believe that what you're doing, what I am doing, it's a lot more than just the validation of what has traditionally been labeled as female leadership skills.
Yeah.
It's a lot more than that.
Yeah.
It is about consciousness, it is about
Yeah.
power, it is about or creative force. So it's much more than, again, some labels that are they're valid, they're interesting, they're valuable to develop. We don't even have to develop them, or we have them. Maybe we have put them somewhere aside on the back burner because we were focused on that one wing, because all the other things didn't were not really validated
No.
in life, in professional life, in politics. But we can easily take those back and activate those. I'm talking about community, I'm talking about kindness, I'm talking about patience, all these things. But what we are talking about is much larger than that. It's
Yeah.
much deeper than that. It's more spiritual, it's
Yeah.
more conscious.
Yeah.
And that is an awareness that even if we find that second wing with what we bring, and we are going to dig a little bit deeper into your beautiful work that you have created. I read it this week, is make sure that the combination of those two wings, the combination of the king and the queen, is synergetic. It's a lot more than adding up these capacity, these these skills or these features. It's a lot more than that, Dion.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
completely agree. And that's what we're here to talk about. I
absolutely.
I think that with any leader who is waking up to a realization that something needs to change within their realm, within their domain, within their sphere of operation, whether that be their organization, their community, their nation, whatever. I think that there is the change that they want to see in that space needs to begin to take place within their own system first.
Absolutely.
The what we see is like a mirror for what needs to happen within us. And I think that's not really well understood in traditional leader development, in leadership development. In fact, I make the distinction between leader development and leadership development. Oftentimes, the focus is on developing the doing of leadership. And we forget that we really have to focus on the being of the leader. And this is a spiritual matter. Who do you say that you are? Why are you here?
Mm.
What is your life and your leadership about? And how are you fully in alignment with those truths? Like that's the work of this new level of like an ascended, enriched level of leader development that we're talking about. If we're going to affect that bird, affect that king, that something needs to be cultivated within us at the level
Mm.
of our identity, at the level
Yeah,
of our understanding about who we are and why we are here. And that
yeah,
is the work that you and I are very heavily involved in.
absolutely. It's so beautifully said, Dion, because when I started my coaching practice, I was also in the leadership development, the corporate leadership, the executive leadership. And like you say, it is about developing skills and strategies. And this is something that I still see. It is about the doing.
Yeah.
And making that switch as a coach is
Yeah.
extremely powerful from the doing to the being. It's something that we have gone through ourselves, right? We cannot coach this if we have not been there. And if we are not still there, it is also about presence in that state. And I see that this is something that is so powerful. I see that with my clients, and I know that you see that with your clients, that once they are opening up for the being, once that they are ready to make that identity shift, once they want to explore and experiment with who they are, what is their legacy, what is their mission, and what is their vision, all the other things that are in traditional leadership development and coaching, it just comes because it is when we are really talking in the moment, unscripted and
Yeah.
uncensored. Sometimes it's difficult to bring that directly,
Yeah.
but it's a logic, not logic, it's just a follow through of who you are. Because when you know who you are, what you're doing is aligned and it's good. It is powerful. It is creative because it is nested in this power of being. And that's
I,
where we need to focus. Yeah.
yes. And what's coming to me now is that we've been talking about authenticity in leadership for a while. We've been talking about bringing your whole self to work and being yourself. They have become somewhat buzzwords. And almost I can see people glazing over when we say them because it doesn't feel tangible. People say, yeah, yeah, but tell me what to do. And I think that this really needs to be spoken about because I'm acknowledging how ambiguous and how intangible these phrases sound. And yet, I am urging our viewers to understand that there's something here that is more than important. It's like critical, that is not immediately apparent to our understanding when we're so deeply entrenched in the system that is all about do be be. So I think one of the first things that I want to say right now is what I want to issue is the invitation to get curious beneath the surface of what it means to be authentic and what it means to be yourself. Or and because what I've discovered is that there are different levels of us. There are different levels of us. That there's the current me, the me that I know myself to be now. I'm Dion, I work like this, I do this, I'm married to that person, I got this children. Like the current me that I understand, that's one level of me. But there are other levels of me, this me that I aspire to be, the me that I see myself becoming. She's not an illusion. She's real. She's a you that we don't know about. Like you feel that you need to step into her, but actually she's part of you that you're longing for is already part of you. And then there is this highness, this high you, this sovereign you, this divine you, this you that is made of God, or you, whatever, however you just, the divine you, the highest you, the authorized you, the perfect you, the one that knows, the one, the all wise you, the one that's connected to all that there is. She's a spirit being, that's part of you. And oftentimes we function, and each one of these versions of ourselves has these different operating systems, that we come from different places, we have different thought patterns, we see things differently. And oftentimes people who are in leadership, women, people generally, but people in leadership is what we're talking about today, they are operating from a lower sense of self, a lower understanding of what's true about who I am. That if you ask them who they are, it's it's not the same description as if they had come into awareness of this high version of themselves. There's a gap. I call this lower version little leader with disempowering thoughts that you just think are normal. You just think these thoughts are just the way that it is. You say, this is just the way that it is. This is just the way that I am. This is just the way that it is. But we're inviting people to open up to the possibility that there is a higher you that thinks completely differently about that thing that you're dealing with, thinks completely differently about the reason for your life, thinks completely differently about what you're here to accomplish or what's possible through you. They're completely different operating systems. And our work is about helping people to start to explore that, start to look at what they are creating, because we create from who we are, not what we do. In the masculine system, it's thought, it's the belief is that big, hard pushing action is what creates results. But what we know is that our results comes from who we're being. Our results comes from how we know ourselves. That what we see happening in our world is a reflection of how we are feeling and seeing and understanding ourselves. And how's this landing for you, Helena? Is this in line with your thinking?
It is absolutely landing, Dion. And I believe that we, as catalysts for transformation, do very important work there. Because if you just ask a question when you meet somebody in whatever context and you ask the question, who are you? Tell
Yeah,
me a little bit about you.
yeah,
Then immediately we start saying the things like you mentioned. I
yeah,
live in Spain. I
yeah,
have a son. I love my dog. I love nature. I work as a coach. I have been an entrepreneur for so many years, things like that. This is like everything that is tangible and measurable and
yeah,
visible. And there's this whole place that we can only access in stillness. That next level or those next levels we cannot access from, like you say, or operating system in a very noisy, stressful setting where most of us are most of the time, with so many people demanding things from us, like yelling and talking and complaining. It can be at work, it could be at home. There's so many people asking things from us. I'm not saying to not to pay
yeah,
attention to that. My invitation is to create moments of stillness where
yeah,
you can access your higher levels and where you can activate your other modus operandis, your operating systems.
yeah.
And if you don't know them, to find help in order to know how to access them and how to activate that. I
Yeah, there's
saw
a,
some
there's a book.
beautiful
Sorry,
I
no.
saw some beautiful videos recently, and it was a video. How do you say that? I think it was a photographer, but he was also on video. And so he put the camera on a woman for 3 minutes without her saying anything. And you could only see her. I saw several ones. You could only see her sitting there thinking. And that was beautiful because you saw also in facial expressions and body postures, they were thinking about a question, all right. But the question was not put in the video. And
Mhm.
then these 3 minutes, what you could see this evolution of feeling like uncomfortable in front of a camera without saying anything, but really knowing that you were recorded. And then you could find this peace coming over them. And then they started answering the question in a tone and a volume and a facial expression that was completely different from the way that we normally talk. And because we have to be efficient, effective in our communication,
Yeah,
transparent,
yeah, yeah,
but that was more like a flow, and it was so beautiful. And I was thinking, this is how we go to these next levels. And it can be guided. This is also what we do to create that space, to bring that stillness in their world.
yeah.
I mean, I also do that with my retreats on the mountains in the middle of nowhere, where we bring that stillness in their being. and they like automatically access that other operating system. Does that resonate, Dion?
Yeah, what I think is that we've really lost the art of contemplation. Like in this noisy world where there's so much stimulation, where there's all this information, we're thinking all the time and we're preoccupied with getting things right, being in control, being in command, getting it, being seen and status building and all of this stuff that we don't know how anymore to just to contemplate.
Yeah.
And it's critical. I read a book years, like maybe 15 years ago, a book called E-Myth Revisited. E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. It's a book that was made for business owners and entrepreneurs. And in that book, I learned a principle that he spoke about. He said that businesses fail because the business leaders are so busy working in the business that they don't make time to work on the business. And that spoke to me as a young entrepreneur back then. It really spoke to me. But I've seen it over the years as my work has developed that this really applies to us as leaders in every capacity. I work with senior leaders and I see it day in, day out that we are so caught up in the grind and the intensity of day-to-day business and leadership that we don't understand the importance for or make room for the working on the leader. We're so busy working in leadership that we forget to work on the leader. And it's working that it's just a principle of all of this work that we're talking about right now. There are principles that undergird this work, and one of the most important ones is that you take, I call it the in versus on principle, that there needs to be a withdrawal, like a deciding that can just stay over there for a minute. I need to develop the leader. And this is something that in your highness you intuitively know that if you can be well, if it can be well with you, then it is well with your people. If you are in your high place on your throne, composed and understanding and clear-minded, then your leadership by default will reflect that. And so in this time and this season when we need new types of leadership, contemplation in versus on is not just a nice thing. It is a call. It's a charge that we're being charged to think about our development, think about developing our intelligence, our understanding, or about our highest nature that is required at this time in leadership.
Yeah. I like that. There's a few things here that I would like to unfold because if we are talking about working on the leadership and working in the leadership, what comes to mind is something that is already the last couple of years very well understood and also implemented. We are talking about self-care, we are talking about meditation, we are talking about yoga and a lot of other things. And I would say that's amazing, that's beautiful, and it's not enough. It's not what we are talking about. Also, the contemplation, I think in the words that we choose already are some elements that need to be opened up. For me, contemplation, it's not only a thing of the mind,
Yeah.
it's also a thing of the heart and the soul and the intuition. A lot of us, when we're talking about contemplation, reflection, journaling, again, it is a very mindful practice. I believe if we want to go to these higher levels, it is so essential that we integrate or other power centers or other resources. And I see that a lot when I work with women and we're talking about identity, who am I? And we're talking about that mission, that legacy they have. And we are talking about the vision that they develop because the vision is like your anchor point of communication with your community, with your stakeholders, with your allies, with whoever you serve. That vision is what makes them understand what it is about. And that vision sometimes is very intellectual. I sometimes compare it with it's a PowerPoint, right? Now, the reason is that, again, it's a very mindful, and not in the mindfulness meaning, it's a very mindful activity that we do. So it is so important to have this connection with mind, heart centered, soul, so we can create a vision, but also we can create an identity that we, again, when I say understand, it's something from the mind, right? I would say that we know from all the levels and all the accesses that we have. And that is also the way that we are able to, I would say, make it contagious. Make it contagious for our communities, for our teams, for our children, for whoever that we want and we need to have impact on. Make it contagious by knowing instead of understanding, because the terminology that we use is always directing things in a certain direction or on a certain level, and we are not aware of that. Even I am not always aware of that. It is so ingrained in how we communicate and what we talk. So I would say a new level of communication, a new vocabulary is also essential. When I read your work, Dion, the beautiful, I would say, manifesto that you have created, and we will make sure that the link to that is here in the show notes. I saw that new language. I saw that new vocabulary. And it is important that we know that it is integrated, that it is embodied. So we don't talk anymore about goals and benefits. And because this is all, like you say, it's old school, it's
Yeah,
old language.
yeah. You're saying so much here, and this isn't scripted, and it's not linear, it's not even logical to many degrees. So I think that some things are taught, some things are caught, and my prayer is that the people listening to this conversation will just catch glimpses of this truth that wants to emerge out of this conversation. I'm very aware of that. One of the words that I wrote down is challenge, that there is an invitation to be challenged in all that you think you know about who you are, about how life works, about what this is all about, where we're going. So that's like the inverse is on thing. Like it's just coming, giving yourself permission, setting the intention that there is this higher you with different understanding. I often think about the caterpillar. I think it was Buckminster Fuller that said, "There's nothing about the caterpillar that indicates that it's going to look like this butterfly," and because they're just so different. They're different operating systems. And so I think curiosity is a really powerful part of this. I think the willingness to be dismantled, like this is what we're
Love
inviting
that.
people to, the willingness to have your philosophies and your ideas and your ideals mashed up and burnt to the ground and to rise again like the phoenix. There is an invitation to die to the you that's been running things so that you can be made whole and awake and alive in the you that is sovereign, that has unadulterated power to affect and infect and effect, create effects in her domain, in her world, in her life.
Absolutely. And I would also like to add, we can do that from a place of fear,
Yeah,
and we can do that from a place of love.
yeah,
When we do it from a place of fear, we will be judgmental, we will be resentful, because you will start analyzing and liking and disliking. And that is not what we mean. We're talking about doing that, dismantling that from a place of love, with
yes,
kindness, with understanding, with
yeah.
curiosity,
Oh my
with what we
goodness.
say with inquiry,
Yeah,
in terms of what is this? What has it been? What has it meant?
yeah,
Sometimes what is still useful? What do we want to bring
yeah, for
to
sure.
our next
The
level?
context, you don't, it doesn't all stay. gone. Like you pick up what you need from the old things. Like I wrote down in my notes,
Yeah.
if you were talking earlier on, there's nothing wrong with systems thinking on being strategic. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that when it is the way, that the primary way, then we create what we can see right now. People cry, people die, people suffer, people get separated, people get lost, people don't achieve their best. So this invitation isn't like you have to be in it to win it. That's what they say about the lottery. You have to be in it to win it. Like you have to be in it to understand. When you were talking just now, I was really thinking about how you were saying that we don't do this from fear. But when you decide to say yes to this call, that actually I can see we're just issuing the call today for anyone that will watch this, we're issuing the call for you to say yes to this unknown journey, this journey into the dark where you just don't know where you're going, where it's not familiar anymore. We're inviting this call, and what on this journey, inadvertently, you will find just how compelled we are to operate from fear, just how compelled we are to fit into this. You get to experience when you say yes to this other way, you start to see how, my God, it's like I just can't help myself. I keep finding myself back in this fear seat. I keep finding myself separated from love. I keep finding myself footing to be more powerful rather than coming from this place of power. And it's such a powerful, lifelong commitment that we're inviting people to.
Absolutely. It's a journey. It's not a goal. It is something that is in flow and that is evolving. And it's not something that you get from the first day that you start this
No,
exploration.
no.
It's
And I call
just
it
a
a spiritual
life
journey.
road.
Yeah,
And I guess that everybody who is on a spiritual path understands that.
yeah,
And even if you are not yet there, you can also understand that it is not something that you achieve.
yeah,
It
yeah,
is something that you go into that flow, and that is continuously. And through that, being from that new state, of course, you manifest. And you manifest different things
yeah.
because you see different relevances, and everything resonates in a different way because
It
you are
feels
in a
like,
different space.
yeah, it feels like, that's what it feels like. It feels like when you say yes to this spiritual unfolding of yourself, it feels like you look at how you've been living and you just see how heavy and incongruent and misaligned and painful it's been,
Mm.
that I can feel it in the room, that as we even put our minds into the difference, like I can feel it between us right now. It's just this, something is broken off, and the real you begins to, you get glimpses of what's possible as the real
Yeah,
you emerges, the you that's plugged into your source, plugged into the truth of who you are. That this is what I'm calling sovereign intelligence.
absolutely. And it is something that is, first of all, you don't have to do this alone because you will connect with other women, with other people who
Yeah,
are at that level, because it's like you are drawn to each other. And also in your leadership as a leader, as a mentor, as a coach, as a mother, as a governor, as a president, you will deal with the same things,
yeah,
but in a completely different way. You will show up in a different way, you will interact in a different way.
yeah,
And it is so important to understand that it's not, especially the traditional leadership and the leadership that I see a lot of women are still in, because it's like a way to survive there. It is about, it's about urgency, it is about decision making processes, it is about strategy, it is about performance. All those elements are still there, but you will deal with them in a different way and you will bring them to the table in a different way, and people will respond to that.
Your
It's not
why will be
because
different. Your why will be different for being there.
exactly.
When you do this work, you're no longer there so that it's okay with you. So you're not just there so that you get paid so that you can survive. And that is very critical.
Yeah.
That right now, what we see are people engaging with those systems, that level of leadership for reasons of trying to prove something about themselves, trying to attain something, status or power or money or a sense of achievement and accomplishment. Like it's the drive to be there is of a lower nature. It is trying to become something or get something that you already are. So
Mm,
when you find out who you already are and you engage with that, it's from a completely different place. Now you're engaging with that because you are and you have something to bring. And this is your way of touching the world because you're a world changer, because you're the gift. You are the asset. You have something to enrich the achievement of the success in this place, that you are the
yes.
governor, you are the overseer, that you have a right, you're authorized to shape this thing because you know it's impacting the world that your children are growing older in, that your next generations are coming into. That you it's now from a sense of purpose. It's now from you now you're there from a sense of this is why I'm here on planet Earth, to be this me that makes this difference, that touches this world in this way. That's what shifts. That's the identity piece that we're trying all these different ways to say, but it's like when you understand the highness of you, then it exposes the way that your lower nature, the little leader in you, has completely not understood. So she's bargaining with the system for recognition, for understanding, proving, trying to convince herself even that she's of
Yeah.
that's how she feels important is to be part of that. But it's an illusion.
Yeah, and very often it's again a place of fear. It's a place of fear of being rejected, of not belonging, of being fired. And I believe if you can operate from that higher level, you don't even care about that anymore. You can also walk away. How many of us are staying in places, in jobs, in relationships because we are afraid? And because we try to rationalize it and we try to make it transactional and we try to look for the elements that again in our mind, in our ego, we should do this or we should do it like that or we
When
should
we try and
stay, all the
rationalize it,
shoulds
what do you
again.
hear? When people try to rationalize that staying, what kind of things do you hear, Elena?
It is about what if I lose my job,
Yeah,
simple things like that.
yeah,
I'm 52.
yes,
It might be very difficult to find another job.
yes,
I'm always surprised by these expressions, but
yeah,
I have a mortgage to
yeah,
pay. I have children that go to school. It's
yeah.
a lot about the money and it's a lot about the credibility. My husband will be very disappointed, or what will my friends think of it if I leave this amazing position? I will never get another position like that. And there again, we are talking about positions. We are
Yeah.
talking yeah, we are talking about things that we can see, feel, materialize, monetize. If you can go to that other level, I'm not saying that you don't care about that anymore, but you will look purposefully in your choices. You will not join an organization or whatever community or system where you feel that you cannot contribute everything that you have and that it is not validated, not in money as such, but it is not validated for the value it brings. You will have completely different negotiations. You will have completely different conversations. You will have completely different relationships. Mm.
That woman who is saying, I'm 52, I got a mortgage, what will people think? That woman has an operating system that's rooted in who she thinks she is. It's an
Exactly.
I am system. So, if in coaching, what we do is we open those things up and we look for the I ams in that. And she might say, what do you mean? Of course I need this. Of course I need this. What will happen to me? It sounds, she makes the argument that if she doesn't have this, she's going to be destitute on the street somewhere, or there are these fears that rooted in a sense of identity that I'm not safe or I'm a fraud and they're going to find out and then I'll be in trouble and then my whole life will fall apart. And so these aren't top of mind thoughts. They're the thoughts behind the experience of desperation to make this work, desperation to prove myself. But there are some thoughts beneath that are we're sometimes so oblivious to, and they're rooted in our sense of self that are so far removed from the truth of our highest nature. That's, I don't know if we're saying it clearly enough because these are not linear things. These are not logical ideas. They are spirit and they need to
Yeah.
be caught.
Yeah.
And what we're doing in this conversation is we're just riffing. Helena and I, we're just talking about something that we are walking through. We have not arrived. We're on this journey of
Mm.
ascension to our highness, mastering this sovereignty of our very being, of our identity. And it is a road. I just made a video yesterday about how the day before yesterday, I found myself back in my lower nature. And I had to wake up to, oh, goodness gracious, why do I keep coming back here? It's an,
It's our humanity, and also it's how we are wired,
yeah,
because these conscious choices are, it's not like something you do once and then it's there. Of
yeah,
course we have these versions of ourselves and we can fall back, and difficult things happen and our brain responds. We get in fight or flight. It's also important, I would say, like at the start level, to understand what is triggering you and why it is triggering you. And this is like the basic work. What
yeah,
is making us angry? What is making us frustrated? Why are we scared? Why are we not feeling confident? What is going on in our system
yeah.
that triggers these things?
Yeah, and what's it
And
saying about how you think about yourself? What is it
yeah,
saying about how you know yourself, who you know yourself to be?
exactly.
This is the work that we're inviting people to. And that's why I call it an intelligence. Because if you want to grow in intelligence, then it requires you to engage with ideas. It requires you to dig deep, to immerse yourself, to start to rehearse, to find to explore and seek and go on a quest for the truth.
Yeah.
It's a decision. This is the work. If we could just switch the work that we're doing, so often we're trying to impress, we're trying to prove, we're trying to rise, we're trying to climb, we're trying to be the best in the field, we're trying to be noticeable, to be visible, all of that stuff. But if we could just try instead and effort instead to have our eyes open to the truth of our highness. If we could do the work instead to understand the way that this high operating system differs from the lower system and choosing and tearing ourselves away, deciding that we're saying no to this old system and we are on a process of embedding this new programming, this new system. This is the work, and it is flipping hard work. It's
Mm.
work that it's work that undermines millennia, centuries, generations of programming that 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 is deeply rooted, deeply established, and part of the bird that's flying with one wing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yet, although it has been established for so many, I would say, ages, we see change. We do see people that are opening up for this
This
intelligence,
time.
for this sovereign intelligence. We see people that are creating a different space for people to land. It has been happening also for centuries.
Yeah.
It's just that we now have the possibility to make this more visible, to make this more accessible, to make this more inviting for
There's
a
a
much
reason why.
larger population,
Yeah,
actually.
sorry. I keep interrupting you because it's just such an
Okay.
exciting conversation. I'm sorry, Helene.
Don't
But,
worry,
but what
please
I
go.
know is that this is a spiritual journey. And there are very real reasons why we don't like saying the word spiritual. We don't like thinking about God. We don't like talking about love. We don't like talking about all those swooshy woo things in the serious world of business, in the serious
Exactly.
world of
It's like
leadership.
two completely different
They're
worlds.
like deliberately manipulated to be separate worlds. But that is the issue that needs to be addressed. That spirituality and hardcore business needs to come together. It's what's missing. And we need the women, we need the leaders who are going to birth this spiritual revolution. But it has to take place within you first. Like you need to have a spiritual revolution of your own. You have to understand your high nature, which is a spiritual concept. Like your highest self is a spirit being. And understanding that and the operating system from that perspective is going to change your leadership and allow you to do miracles in your space, miracles in your field. Like this is the cry of my heart, and I know it's the cry of yours too. And we're having these conversations. There's just this desire that the people listening are catching a glimpse of something that will intrigue them enough for them to say, "Let me look a little closer. Let me investigate this a little deeper."
Absolutely. That's why we also committed to have this conversation on a monthly basis because it is a growth process. And I absolutely loved what you said, like this kind of maybe deliberate separation between professional life and spiritual life. And I'm not sure if that is the case in all the cultures all over the world. I tend to believe that there are cultures where this integration is a lot more already a reality. But it is absolutely what we see in what we call the Western world. I mean, in Europe, US, Canada. And it's also how coaching has been developed. We coach the professional, and then you also have life coaches. And I believe that what we can do in order to optimize that is have a real holistic coaching approach. My woman centered coaching approach is holistic. I never coach the professional, I coach the woman because there's so many aspects on us, and some aspects might be like a little bit overrepresented. They are, especially the professional aspects. And then there are other aspects that are underrepresented. And it's about understanding who we are in an integrity as a whole, and also understanding that everything is interconnected, even the roles or the aspects that we are not aware of because we have buried them or because they were not allowed to show up in certain phases of our lives. We can unbury them, right? We can just bring the spotlight on it, and we can decide in this phase of our life what these priorities and values and mission and legacy I have. These are the aspects that I absolutely want to bring to the light. And they are interconnected, they're interwoven. So it's, for me, it makes no sense to work only on the professional side if there's so many other aspects that have an impact on that, or to work only on the personal side if there's so many other aspects that interact. And so it is so important also when you're looking for guidance and for assistance to look for somebody that has this openness to who you are as a complete being. It is about, that's why I call it the holistic approach. You cannot separate these things. And we try because we feel that when we slice things, it makes it easier. Yeah,
Yeah,
it makes it easier to consume, but it doesn't make it easier to be. I don't want to be a sliced woman.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I think identity and identity work is the cornerstone
Mm,
that everything that we're seeing in our world is an emblem of how we see ourselves. It, what's happening in my life is a mirror of my sense of self. And this is why we've been talking so heavily on who you're being. Like earlier on, you were talking about that some places are already operating on this higher level of identity. And what I find is that that there's a difference between understanding this and living from it. That's part of the challenge. Like
yeah,
becoming more and more enlightened doesn't necessarily mean that we're living from it. And so there are different aspects of this work. One is just the sheer understanding of it, like the seeing, the awareness of these different dynamics at play. And then there is the kind of what's occurring to me as a result of that understanding. And then there is so how is this, how am I going to allow this to challenge me and change me? So there's a process of embodiment, of embedding this learning deep in the already well-programmed DNA and cells of our being. Just this, I like to see it like a blood transfusion, like a swapping out the old for the new. And that is a process that takes real intention and it takes real commitment and it takes real community and support, strategic support. And it's a quest, it's an ongoing thing.
absolutely. Because when you start this work, you also may expect resistance. Not only resistance from your ego, which will certainly happen,
Yeah,
but also resistance from your environment.
for sure.
Because when you start this work, you are also being disruptive
Yeah,
and you are holding a mirror to other people that are close to you
yeah,
and that might not be ready for that work yet. And that will resist not only for themselves, but also in your process. And they might have very good intentions and they might do this from a place that they feel it's a place of love, but very often it will be a place of fear because
yeah,
resistance is always based on fear.
yeah.
And so it is very important that you also choose your community of support. I'm
Yeah,
not saying that you have to separate from those communities. That's not what I'm saying. It's about what impact do you allow on your process and where do you find the space and the allyship in order to continue that work and in order to have resonance, in order to be able to explore this and to be vulnerable in this path and share this with other people who are there as well.
yeah,
So who know what is going on. That's a
yeah,
very important thing to create your setting to do this.
for sure.
Yeah.
I saw
And if
recent.
you can create some time alone.
Yeah, yeah. I saw just recently, just this week, a report that I haven't read yet about loneliness in leadership. There is in this culture, in this system, there is a kind of suck it up, keep it in, hide that stuff, put a mask on, don't let this share. That's really a part of what we see on a daily basis that some of the things that are going on in our lower natured minds, I call it the slave girl mind. Some of the things that's going on in the slave girl mind is only allowed to go on there because we're not sharing it like with it's not coming like no one's no, you haven't said it out loud and no one's heard you say it and so it can't be challenged. So creating
Yeah.
place for it to be challenged is really important. But there's the story that's come into mind, Helena, about when I was a midwife, because I was a midwife for a very long time. It's really where I learned about the power of womanity, and I saw woman in her power in that setting. And that's really was the precursor for this work that I'm doing right now. Anyway, I remember one day I went into, somebody asked me to take some, we used to give this medicine for when the baby was delivered for the placenta to be delivered quickly. That's a whole other story. But so I had to take this medicine to the room because apparently this woman was near to delivering her baby. So I walked into the room and I saw this picture, and I want you to picture it. I saw a midwife over in the corner of the room, this corner. She was on the computer because it was a time when everything was getting technical now, and midwives had to keep up with all these contemporaneous notes on the computer system. So she had her back to the woman, she was doing the computer notes, and then over in the other corner of the room was this woman, and she was led on the bed like this, on her knees on the floor. She was leaning on the bed. She was holding on to the Entonox, the Gassinet, the pain relief thing. And she looked, she looked like she was in agony. She looked so distressed. She was holding on to the Gassinet, and she had to breathe this thing in. It's sometimes called laughing gas. You breathe it. She was breathing, and then the veins on her neck were just popping out. Her face was contorted. She was really distressed. And I remember the feeling when I walked into the room. I saw her. I almost felt her calling me. And then I saw the midwife and I had the medicine that the midwife had requested. And I made up my mind in that moment, should I go and give her the medicine or should I go to the woman? I've never seen this woman before, don't know her from Adam. But I chose to go over to the woman. And I remember just deciding to stand beside her. And I saw her in her distress. And she was pulling at this gas as if to say, it's just not working. I need it to do something more for me. And then I saw that contraction was going away and that I could see that her breathing was a little bit less labored, but she was still contorted in her face and she was still holding on to the gas in there and she wouldn't let it out of her mouth. So when I saw that contraction was going away, I thought, let me go and give the midwife this medicine now. So I started to walk away, and I never forget what happened next. She dared to let go of the thing and said, don't leave me. And then she put it back in her mouth. Something about the way she said it touched me. I thought about this for months and years afterwards, that there's something in the tone of her saying, don't leave me. I wasn't even really with her. I'd never met her. We didn't have a relationship, but I just simply stood by her. I didn't touch her. I just stood by her.
It's that
With the
energy.
intention of imparting some kind of encouragement. And that in her distress, she recognized that, yes, this is what I need. In her distress, in her agony, she dared to spare a breath to tell me, no, you can't leave me. And I think that we've lost touch with our need for one another.
Yeah.
This process that we've been talking about today is a painful, scary, discombobulating, turn your world left and right, upside down, right side up kind of process.
Absolutely.
And I just
Dion, this is,
can't do it on our
wow.
own.
Yeah.
Go on.
This is such a powerful story. And in its dramatic setting, even if we do not experience this dramatic setting all the time, we experience this loneliness. I am finishing an article about that because, especially for women, we have been told that we need to build confidence, we need to be resilient, we need to build agility. And of course, we do. But that's not the only thing. It is the community. It is being with people that give you space to be, because a lot of people don't give you the space to be. If they are not in that place, they cannot give you that space to be, because they will be demanding, they will be asking, they will be making noise, they will be yelling. And this is what we are in. And the people that are supposed to help us and support us are in the corner on the computer.
Yeah. The people who are supposed to support us, I love that you say that she's in the corner. The truth is, the help that we have right now still believe that you need to build your confidence. They are not aware of the you that is by nature confident. They are not aware, they can't guide you to the you that is already authorized and authoritative and commanding and unflappable and unfearful and faith filled and power filled. So they're trying to support you to build confidence, which is like fake confidence. Come on, act like this, stand like this, do this. Because in this paradigm, at this level, that's what you do. You fake it till you
It's
make
the operating system.
it.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
right.
absolutely. And finding that community is so powerful. I'm setting them up. I'm creating masterminds now for females where these topics can also come to the table
Yeah,
uncensored.
yes,
And it is about understanding that you will not get this in your traditional environment, because where you were is what happens there, and the environment will not change.
yeah,
So if you want to grow, you have to find a different environment. Not saying to neglect that environment completely, but be very conscious and purposeful in choosing specific environments to develop certain things, like here to develop this level of sovereign intelligence. If you want to learn how to play tennis, you don't go to the sea,
yeah.
right? You go to a tennis court and you look for a tennis coach and things like that. This is a very simple, I don't remember the word. This is a very simple explanation, but it is similar. If you want to develop this, you look for an environment, for a setting, for a space, and for the people that can support you with that and that are on their own path. They don't have to be gurus or masters. It's about exploring yourself, because nothing bad can happen. It's not a walk in the park, but
Yeah.
it's a trip, it's a voyage, and it never stops. It's an ongoing exploration of a beautiful path. Does that make sense?
Oh, total sense. I'm thinking that my desire is that anyone watching this or listening to this will just take that sentence that you say about deciding what you want to do with this and ask yourself is what is this to you? What have you caught as Helena and I have been talking? Because there's a part of you that knows full well what this means for you. And so it starts with really taking the time to get still enough to write in sentences what you think we've been saying, what's landing for you, how this is it being processed within you. Like this is how you can make a start today. That we're
Mm.
not here to tell you more behaviors or skills to get. We're here with an invitation to to get curious about a higher, more sovereign, powerful, authorized you with a completely different operating system to the one that you're currently swimming in, flowing in. And the way that you get to her is the through slowing down and asking yourself, what has this opportunity, what door, what path, what layer of my path has opened up as I've listened to this?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would like to go back to the metaphor of the bird, the one-winged bird. Our invitation is to develop that second wing
Yeah,
and just Feel what that can be. Feel how this one winged bird is turning around, turning in circles, and maybe change places a little bit, and maybe gets up something to see something from a different
Yeah.
height, but it won't be very high. But just imagine to develop those boat wings and learn to fly with them and just go high in the sky where the sky is the limit and feel free and have a completely different view. Because when you see things from that height, you have awareness of what is, and you have awareness of the fact that there's a lot more than that little place when you are where you are circling around with your one wing. And I think that is the most beautiful invitation that we can make. And it's the most beautiful gift that you can give to yourself, to develop both wings and to fly high, to rise above all the noise and all the limitations that we have built and created ourselves, or that the system has created. But we are the system, we are part of the system. So this is about choosing no longer to be part of the system, but just to escape it and see from that place what your potential is and what your possibilities are and live them. That's my invitation for this session today.
That's it.